What if improving patient outcomes didn't come from doing more, but from slowing down just enough to actually listen? Welcome to the Practice Pulse, where we explore how innovative practitioners are building smarter systems, scaling their impact, and redefining what patient care looks like in today's healthcare landscape. I'm your host, Nancy Margrit, founder of Optima Pro AI, where we help healthcare and wellness businesses grow through practical systems, automation, and scalable infrastructure while retaining the human touch. Today, I'm joined by Pinky Khatri. Pinky is an audiologist with nearly 20 years of experience and the founder of a thriving private practice that's been serving patients for over a decade. What makes this conversation especially relevant right now is her focus on something that's often overlooked in healthcare: mindfulness, both for patients and practitioners. She's not just building a practice, she's redefining what quality care looks like in a high stress, high volume industry. Pinky, I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah, thanks for
inviting me.
being here. So let's start off with a little bit of your background. You've been in audiology for nearly 2 decades. You've built your own practice over the last 11 years. Can you walk us through kind of your background and what led you to start your own practice and what you wanted to do differently?
Sure. So I've always wanted to be in private practice from the time I was in grad school. Uh, and part of it was, when I initially had the concept of private practice, it was all about integration. I always dreamt of having a practice where I would be able to have a speech therapist on hand, and OT and ENT, and we'll all work together and we'll be able to holistically care for the patient. And since then, that concept has evolved. I've been in practice, I guess I've had my practice for about 11 years now. And before that, I was at an ENT office. And one of the big reasons I left was, I wanted to, it was a very fast paced. They come in, see the ENT, you know how at specialist office, you're barely there for a few minutes, it's in and out. And hearing aids are expensive. It's a significant transaction. And I just wanted to kind of slow down and have patient really experience and go through the process of not just a transaction, but also just to understand as to what exactly hearing loss means, what it is. It's not just beeps and words all day like how we do in our diagnostic evaluation. It's more than that. People are in different conversations, different situations. So I wanted to slow it down and help patient understand the process. So in that way, the acceptance rate is better, but I wasn't able to do a lot of that at that practice. So I was like, okay, let's just start on our own, and I can be a little mom and pop shop, and I have my own pace, more own time, and my own way of doing things. And that has really helped to truly focus on the patient's needs instead of just chugging through a bunch of files all day.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's wonderful, really taking the time to get to know your patients, because I think when we look at the patient first and we become patient oriented, we're really able to help them meet their outcomes, which aren't necessarily, to your point, going to, hearing these different beeps. Like we don't necessarily need to go just based on that. We have to look at what their lifestyle is like and what their outcomes that
Yes.
they're looking for. So
Yeah.
yeah, so taking that churn and really slowing it down so that you're able to focus on the patient. I love that you're doing that in your practice. A lot of private practitioners or private practitioners, they're stepping into private practice because they want more control. And that comes with new challenges around balance and growth. And on our intro call, you talked a lot about stress, especially post COVID, both for patients and your team. Tell us a little bit about shifts that you start to notice that make you rethink how your practice operates.
Sure. We, especially post COVID, there was a lot of anxiety both at the office among the staff and with the patients because everything is so new. You're trying to figure out new ways to still be able to see patients, continue practicing, all of that good stuff. And somehow we had lost touch with some of the basic stuff. So I had to get my staff, sit them down and say, I think we're all like on an express train to burnout. We need slow it down. And initially, I had signed them up for, I think it's called like workplace mindfulness training. It
Hmm.
was like an 8 week session. I literally had to beg my staff. I'm like, I'm paying for it. You can do it during the working hours. Please, can you put your computers away and let's focus on
That's wonderful.
It took a lot of like push-pull.
Mhm.
I finally ended up going from an online event to an in-person event. We would do one every quarter where I would have somebody come in, go through different things to just help in terms of slowing down and connecting, not just amongst ourselves, but also with our patients more deeply and being more productive and making sure we're not on that train to burnout.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a real pattern right now across healthcare where burnout has become the norm, not the exception. So, what problem are you actively trying to solve inside your practice when it comes to both the patient experience and the team well-being?
So, in terms of the team well being, it's kind of spacing it out and taking it slow. And we are so conditioned to the quantity, especially, when you're involved with insurances and the way the reimbursements have gone down. Everybody across the field are trying to get more patients in the door to be able to still meet the overhead and all of that. And at some point I had to say, I don't want to see these kind of patients. I don't want to see I don't want to take insurance. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that. And my staff were like, what are we gonna do if we're not seeing all of these people? And I'm like, we're gonna focus on quality care. Even if we see less patients, if we continue focusing on quality, the word will spread and we will be able to fill up our schedule with with of patient profile instead of just everybody coming at us. So that has shifted in terms of in the practice. But the problem with the patient part, one of the big complaints that we hear from patients is that, hey, I went to so and so and they sold me hearing aids. They gave me a bag. We walked out. $4,000 later, I don't know if it works or not. I don't know if it's the right fit for me. Gave me options. Nobody educated me. And nobody even validated that the hearing aids are actually working like the way they're supposed to. So what we've done is where we've used best practices across whether it's diagnostics, hearing aid fitting, or follow-up care, where we kind of stretch it out and say, let's make sure we are quantifying the progress at every step. So that way the patient is also involved and I have big screens on each of my consultation spaces where the patient is able to see exactly what we're doing. So that helps to kind of, we do like show and tell, and we're explaining every step of the way. This is what we're doing. This is why we're selecting. This is why we're running diagnostics. And with the diagnostics, this is what we're seeing. And we put them back in the booth again with the hearing aids on now to say, okay, before you were struggling with speech and noise here, now with the hearing aids, when we put you back in the booth, your scores are better. So we're not just slowing down, we're validating that they're actually working and then they made the right move and the right investment instead of just treating it as another transaction.
That's wonderful. Yeah, being able to really show people what you're doing is so powerful, and it really gives them an understanding of what's going on in the process, and also reemphasizes what the product is doing for them.
Yeah.
And it also can bring up, I'm sure you've experienced where it brings up like this maybe isn't the right fit, or maybe we need to tweak this to
Right.
make it
Right.
better.
Yeah.
That's
And we're
awesome.
very flexible with that. Where, typically I've seen clinics where, like in state of Virginia, you have 30 days trial. Where I've had patients come in and say, after the fitting, I never went back. I didn't know if I was even okay to go back and they can actually tweak these, make adjustments to it. So we pre-schedule some of those and we're touching base and saying, how are you doing in terms of communication here, there? And so it helps for them to also know that, okay, first day when I went there was so much information. Now they have time to kind of process it, slow it down. And in the 30 days, if it doesn't work, we're like, okay, we're not tied down to this makeup model. Let's try something else, see what else can work better for you. And we'll kind of go from there.
That's great. Yeah, I love your approach to focus and slow down and prioritize quality over quantity. That shift, it sounds simple, but operationally it's a big change from how most practices are
It's
run.
2 years of, making these
Yeah,
I've made so many changes. I think you can have my middle name as change at this point.
that's great.
But it's, when you're making the changes, it feels very stressful, and there's so many doubts as to, am I making the right choice? Because we're so used to one way of thinking. We're so used to saying, let's churn, 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 make money, let's go. But then over time, you forget that, yes, looking at KPIs are great, looking at numbers is great, but then you don't get lost with your main goal is not just all the numbers, but it's also actually being present and making the patient feel that they were seen, they were heard,
Mhm.
and they got the help that they really were looking for.
It's awesome. Yeah, I know, like, it's great that you really want the patient to understand what they're experiencing instead of just moving them through the process. And you touched some on the patient journey, specifically during some of the assessments or when you're looking at how this hearing aid is helping you. Can you tell us a little bit more, maybe early on in the patient journey, what it looks like, how you show that intentional slowdown and listening and understanding what their outcomes are on the front end before they even get the hearing aids?
Sure, we ask a lot of questions. And it's not just about, history of hearing loss, how long have you had hearing loss, and do you have ear infections? We go a lot more than that. We go deeper in saying, cognitively, where do you feel like, are there situations where you feel like you're checking out because it's too much to continue following a conversation when you're in a group? And we're looking at social impact. Do you feel like it's impacting your relationship? In what way is it affecting the way you used to communicate with your grandkids, with your wife, with your child? So we touch in a lot more, and we try to get down to what is their pain points and what are their core needs. And then from there we start to build in and say, based on what you're saying, and because you said this and this, then based on these, this is why I'm recommending. So we kind of tie it together instead of saying, oh, you have hearing loss. This is the hearing aid. Okay, walk out the door. We're trying to understand as to what actually happens in their everyday lifestyle. And sometimes I have patients saying, isn't that too much information? I've never had anybody ask me all these questions. And I'm like, well, we really want to know, so we're able to get to the bottom of why you're truly here, what's happening, so we're able to make recommendations according to that.
Mhm. Yeah, that level of personalization is, I'm sure, a major differentiator for you. And I wish we were seeing that more through other areas of healthcare, but that's amazing that you're doing that. I think tell me, let's see, I'd love your perspective because I think you have a unique perspective and I love your system. I love that you're slowing down and you're actually listening to patients. What do you think that most practitioners misunderstand about patient care today, especially in the more transactional environments like you came from?
Hmm. It is, I think the biggest one, or the one that I feared the most at some point, was if I stop taking insurance, patients will not come. At some point, I thought it was all about what's most, I guess, convenient and what's the cheapest way for them to get the hearing aid. But then I've learned over time, then that doesn't allow me to give our best. And so over time, when we took out the insurances and I said, I want to just go private pay, that has allowed me to say, okay, it's not necessary that people will only go, because that I've been in that system for like 17 years. So I was like, oh gosh, what am I doing? Will people actually show up? What are we going to do?
Uh-huh.
How are we going to keep the doors open? But then people see that they care about the quality. They don't, yes, money is important, especially given how things are going now. They want to take advantage of whatever benefits they have. But I think it also comes down to them seeing the quality. If you are providing the quality that you're saying you're providing, then they're able to look past the money, past the insurance benefit, and say, it's okay. I will leave that aside and I'll still come to you and pay whatever I need to be able to get services from you. I feel like that has been an eye opener for me personally.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a major shift in mindset, but not just a shift in your mindset, also your team's mindset, especially moving away from all the go, go, go mentally. How did you actually implement that change with your staff? What did that look like when you made that shift?
I see. Especially the insurance conversation. I think it was Anthem. We got some letters saying that you had to be working with a third party network or third party administrator for us to have patients access the benefit. And third party reimbursements are really low. And they literally really make us as a middleman, and we have to jump a lot of hoops to be able to get what the patient actually needs, because there's a lot of restrictions around what product the patient can get, what manufacturer the patient can get, and all of that. So when we got that letter, I literally kind of made that decision on the spot, and I was so upset about it that I was like, not just Anthem, let's pull out from all of them. And it was a very tough call, because to me, I thought if I'm a medical office, then I'm supposed to take medical insurance. That's the mentality that I came out of the university. All the placements, all the offices I worked in, it's always been the case where it's a medical office, you take medical insurance, that's how people come to see you. So to just pull the plug completely and to say, I'm not doing that anymore. It's okay if I have to shut down, whatever, that's different. I
Hmm.
have to keep the doors open, and I need to be able to support my staff. As much as I want to support my patients, my staff also should be comfortable with all the pay cuts from the insurances and all of that. I'm like, there's no way I could afford quality care from my staff if I also start cutting pays or anything like that. So it was a very, at that point, it felt like a rash, but also necessary decision. But
Hmm.
looking back, it's the best decision I've made is to, just like the bandage, you just pull it off,
Yeah.
and it's almost like starting over and starting fresh and recreating your brand and all of that. So it's been a painful, slow process, but at the same time, it's also been very rewarding to see that now I actually have the time to do what I really wanted to do when I had my own practice.
Hmm. Yeah, and changing strategy like that is really hard, especially when you're shifting with an entire team. And it can even be harder to change, the culture inside of a practice. For other practice owners that are listening, what's one system or operational change that made the biggest difference in reducing burnout while maintaining performance?
Gosh, I've done a few different things, but the biggest thing is to take breaks and have office I guess get-togethers, outings, and have zero discussion about work, and to really like connect with the staff individually and at a personal level, and not talk about work. We do once or twice a year, we have spa days. We just go hang out, not a single word about about work or patients or money coming in or any of that. I'm like, we worked all year, and I don't want to hear anything about work. Let's just completely detox and get refreshed. That's kind of something basic, I would say, is the starting point. But I would say, think about mindful ways to help your staff to take more breaks, whether now move them to a 4-day week or give a little bit of extra time. I've even seen companies where they do like mindful breaks, where it's just a few minutes to walk out, do your thing, just go back to nature and walk and come back, or at the desk have a little bit of like mindful set. And at some point, I was considering to have like a room where if somebody has had a grumpy patient or something, then there's a room to go in and just completely very relaxing from the sounds to the scenery with lots of plants, and just give the staff a little bit of like a change in scenery, change in pace so they can regroup and then go back and see their patient.
Yeah, that's so important to be able to reset your energy when you have one of those toxic interactions with
Yeah, yeah.
the client. Yeah, so that's wonderful that you're providing that type of environment for your staff, because efficiency doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it's creating space for what actually matters. So those are some really great tips. And I think it makes people want to work with you and want to work for you, and really probably helps with retention a lot as well. So you also mentioned on our intro call exploring new revenue streams like supplements and additional services. So, how are you thinking about expanding your business while still staying aligned with your core philosophy of patient centered care?
Still very early on in that kind of looking at that avenue. But it's, we've had a lot of patients kind of in during conversation ask about what else can they do to make sure the hearing is doesn't get any worse, or if there's something to do where hearing improves. So we recently did a survey within the office just to say if that would be of interest. And we've had some responses and some positive ones saying that, showing interest in supplements. So it's something that I'm considering. And that would just be, I guess, an added value to somebody who's already seeing us. And for those who have questions on how can I improve, how can I make sure it doesn't deteriorate, that's something additional they get. And and what I'm looking at, I think it's from University of Michigan. They had created a product, I think it's called Sound Bites, where it's research based, and they have a lot of evidence on how it works and all of that stuff. So like I said, I'm still kind of figuring out
Hmm.
how to go about with it, but that's a possibility. The other thing I'm looking at is kind of introducing like membership models. I feel like there's membership models everywhere, and it doesn't exist in audiology. And we're trying to educate our patients more so to be able to have them be proactive about their care, because there's a lot of research that says patients who get professional care and consistent care, their hearing aids function better. And over time, they're able to perform better. So instead of just saying, okay, here's your hearing aids, we've done a few follow ups, go and come back when you need, we're now able to say, let's sign you up for some kind of membership. So now we can see you periodically and we can help maintain that investment that you've made, and you continue to have better hearing. And, over time, if your hearing changes, then we're able to take care of it then and there, instead of us dropping the ball and 4 years later you're like, okay, what happened? They never saw me again.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's wonderful that you're looking at adding some auxiliary kind of products and services. For other founders who are considering doing something like that, adding new services or products, what's your approach to validating whether something is worth pursuing or not?
I usually give it about 3 to 6 months. I come up with all kinds of ideas. We try it for 3 to 6 months. If it works, great. If not, let's shelf it and let's think of something else to see what would work. And I feel like the only thing constant is change. And if we don't continuously change our approach and keep up with the needs in the market, then you kind of get left behind and you're not doing service justice to the people that you're serving. So I feel like I'm trying to keep up with the needs and keep up with what's the best approach to be able to give patients the care that they need, not just at the time of purchase, but through the life of the hearing aid use.
Mm, mhm. Okay, so as you look ahead, how do you see your practice evolving over the next few years?
Hmm. I haven't looked that far. Oh, well, part of it is I have a lot of challenges in the household. So I'm trying to navigate things at home and at the office. So I'm operating here and now, and we'll see when we get there. Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah, you sometimes you have to just stay focused on the now,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially when you're having some.
Because when you have, it's good to have goals. It's good to have a 3 year, 5 year plan. And I do too. But at the same time, just looking at it daily, weekly, and just obsessing about it, you get so attached to the goal that you get detached to what's happening now. And so, over time, I've learned to say, as long as I'm giving my best, the goals will get achieved. I'm
Mhm,
confident about that. So, what I can control is giving my best. I cannot control the outcome. So, why focus and obsess about the outcome when I could be focusing and obsessing about how I can give my best?
mhm. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, so thinking globally, where do you see the future of private practice going, especially as it relates to like balancing efficiency, technology, and maintaining that human connection with patients?
I think a lot of private practices have to think outside the box and see hearing care more than just devices itself, because there's so much more that we can offer to our patients. And there are some practitioners who are doing, they have some niche specialties and they're working on it. But if we're stuck in and if we put all our eggs in hearing aids, we have so many different things, everything from insurances changing the reimbursements to insurances purchasing hearing aid manufacturers. There's so much vertical integration happening, is that if you don't think out of the box, then you'll get swallowed up with all these giants. The only way to stand out is truly kind of focus on the care that you provide and make it add small touches. Like in our office, we do give our patient a small plant at the time of fitting, just as a reminder that just as the plant needs time and patience and some effort to be able to grow and flourish, your hearing journey needs that too. It's not you're fit and you're done. It's a reminder that you need to be committed to and focused on and take the steps that you need to take to be able to be successful with not just hearing, but also reconnecting with their loved ones.
That's beautiful. I love that you do something so tangible to really help operate as a reminder. I'm also a plant person, so they're all over my office. There's one above my head, so very cool. Love that. Okay, so now we're going to move into, before we close out, we're going to move into the lightning round. So these are quick answers that you could just quick, short answers, and there are only four of them, and we'll just roll through these. But so the first one is, what's one myth about patient care that you would like to eliminate forever?
That patients will only come to you if you take insurance.
That's a good one. What habit keeps you steady when the stakes are high?
To disconnect from everything at least an hour a day and, take time to meditate, do whatever you need to do. And what if once you we when we take time to disconnect, then we're ready for all the chaos that comes after the 9 a.m.
Hmm. That's so true. I have to have my morning meditation.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. What gives you the most hope right now?
I guess my kids. I have three, and just seeing them giggle and all the mischief that they get into.
Oh, their kids are really good at mischief. That's for sure.
Yes, yes.
Um, all right. And then this last one is just, where can listeners follow your work and hear more about what you're building?
Sure. My website, familyhearingva.com. And then I have a YouTube channel called The Mindful Professional, where I'm talking a little bit about hearing, a little bit about mindfulness, and how to kind of incorporate both to be able to, use some mindful hearing strategies to reconnect with their loved ones.
Awesome. Okay, and we'll include that in the show notes. So awesome. Pinky, thank you so much for being here. I love what you're building, and I love your commitment to bringing intention and mindfulness back into patient care and into your team. I think that's so important, and I love everything you're doing. You've incorporated so many different strategies and techniques to really build a beautiful workplace and really a wonderful place to come if you're looking for an audiologist. So I think it's wonderful. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
For everyone listening, if this conversation resonated, make sure to connect with Pinky and learn more about her work. And if you're a practitioner looking to build smarter systems that support growth, patient experience, then that's exactly what we focus on at Optima Pro AI. So thanks for tuning in to the Practice Pulse. Innovation creates possibility, implementation turns it into growth. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe and share it with someone who would find value with it. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.